Good morning. The older you get, the more mail you get from charitable organizations. And one of the charitable organizations that sends me letters, many letters, with requests and with pictures of hungry children and so on, is an organization called CARE, which sends packages to about 100 countries all over the world where there is poverty. And they ask for donations, and they say that your donation now will be quadrupled or whatever if you act now. And I'm not against feeding hungry people. I support that very in large extent, especially around Yom Tov or holiday time. This is something that we have to really do. We have to make sure that people aren't hungry, no matter where they are. I had one question for the lady. They actually followed up the 20 or 30 envelopes that they sent me with a telephone call. And since my address is Bayis Shabbat of Farmington Hills, they asked for Bayis Shabbat. So I told them that Bayis Shabbat is not a person, it's an institution. I guess they didn't understand. They thought that the first name was Bayis and Shabbat was the last name. So I said, I support the things that you do, but I have one question. My question is, there are poor children in Israel. Are they supported by CARE? Well, that was the kryptonite for the conversation. She says, we support children in 90 or 91 countries or whatever. And I said, is Israel one of them? This is a synagogue and I'm a rabbi, I want to know. And she says, well, if you have a question, you should call the directorship or whatever. So I wasn't lazy. I looked on the line who CARE gives money to in the Middle East. They include Italy. They also include, or Iraq, they include Palestine. Now, the last I checked, there has never been a country called Palestine. It doesn't exist. They want it to exist because that's the claim of territory that they want to take away from the Jewish people. Land that belonged only and exclusively historically to the Jewish people. Palestine was a territory governed by the British mandate. Palestine was never a country. It was an area that was that the British got a mandate from the League of Nations to judge, to minister, because until there was final determination what to do with it, because it had been controlled by the Turks as part of the Ottoman Empire, and they sliced off pieces of the Ottoman Empire and made them into countries. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq. These countries did not exist. Jordan didn't exist. In fact, Jordan, 80% of the people of Jordan are from the Arab dwellers who dwelt in the area called Palestine, because they took the largest portion of Palestine, which was east of the Jordan River, and they also took a significant portion of that which was west of the Jordan River, and they called that the West Bank. But in truth, the country called Transjordan means the other side of the Jordan. And most of the country, a significant portion of the country, was from that territory, which was called Palestine, which was not a country. It was an area where Jews lived and Arabs lived, and that was supposed to be administered by the British. The British decided, willy-nilly, decided that they were going to give, before anything happened with the negotiations with the Jews, they were going to give the significant portion, the biggest portion of Palestine to the Arabs. They gave it to the Hussein family, uh, who had been chased out of Saudi Arabia by Ibn Saud, and they wanted to soothe their feelings that they were supporters of theirs, and they gave them a territory to administer, to be where they could be king. The Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, they originated in Arabia. That's where they actually came from. So the country of Jordan, Transjordan, is not really a country. It was arbitrarily created after World War I, as was Iraq, as was Syria, as was Lebanon. All those countries, the borders are not natural. Those were decided upon by the French and by the English after World War I, and they were going to divide the sphere of influence. Along came a bunch of Jews, and they made a difficulty because they wanted to have the area called Palestine, because that was the traditional area of the Jewish people. So they promised them in the Balfour Declaration, but they worded it in such a way that they didn't have to fulfill what they said. They said that they were going to put the homeland in Palestine, a homeland in Palestine, without defining where it would be in Palestine. And they intended that the Jews should be a small minority in Palestine. The Arabs should be the majority, and the Arabs should be able to, do whatever they wanted with the Jews, and the British would have to be there to protect the Jews from the Arabs, or vice versa. But the didn't work out that way, quite that way, guys, did it? Because the Arabs refused to accept any kind of settlement, and so they attacked the Jews as soon as the United Nations declared that Israel could have its own territory for the Jewish people, the Jewish homeland. As soon as that was declared, they declared war on it, and were going to wipe out all the Jews. They were going to kill all the Jews. And in fact, a lot of the people who were uprooted weren't uprooted by the Jews, they were uprooted by the Arabs themselves, telling them, get out of the way so that we can kill the Jews faster. You're in the way. And when we kill the Jews, you'll have their land as well. That's why they left so quickly. Didn't work out that way for them either. And the area, which was traditionally Jewish land, Judea and Samaria. You know what Judea means? That means the land of Judah. And Samaria means the land of the Shomronim. That was the land where the 10 tribes had their capital. And in fact, there were areas in Transjordan, across the Jordan River, which belonged to the Jewish people. They were the lands of Bashan and the lands of the Amorites of Sichon and Og. And they're significant parts of, I would say about 60%, maybe 70% of Transjordan is really Jewish territory. They have a claim only from Ammon and Moab, and some of the Asa of the Edomium area. But in the north and the east, that most of that area, that was traditional Jewish area of Israel, the land of Israel. At any rate, getting back to care, there was never a country called Palestine. Palestine was a bastard name given to the area because it was in the western, the southwest corner of that area was the land of the Philistines. So they didn't want to call it Philistia, they called it Palestinia. But it really is Philistia, the land of the Philistines. The Philistines have been around for about 3,000 years. In case you didn't know, King David and King Solomon and some of the other kings had something to do with that. And they haven't been around for a while. Certainly not significant. So the Philistines are not there. It's not Palestine, the land of the Philistines. It's only Palestine because they didn't want to give it a name Judea. It had nothing to do with whether as a country, but Palestine is never a country. And the area was the area of Judea and the 10 tribes of Israel. So CARE ministers to 91 countries. One of them is Palestine. Palestine is not a country. Never was a country. Israel is a country. There are a lot, tens of thousands of children, maybe 100,000 children that go hungry every night. I support some of the charities that help support the Jewish poor in the land of Israel. So, and certainly up until recently, when Israel suddenly became energy wealthy, Israel was an area that needed help about 20 years ago. Now it doesn't, but CARE never supported the poor children of Israel, supported the children supposedly in the area called Palestine, which isn't a country. It's a group of Arabs who want to call it Palestine so that they can have a claim to it outside of the Jewish area. But they're living in Judea. They're living in Samaria. They're in a place called Shechem. They call it Nablus because it was Naples under the Romans. But Nablus is Shechem. Shechem is a Jewish area for 3,700 years, 3,600 years. How dare you say that this is Arab land? Palestine is not a country. It's a ruse. It's an evil lie that has been fomented so that they can claim that this is not Jewish land. The Philistines have been around for about 3,000 years, 2,900 years, ever since about 2,800, ever since David whacked whack-a-mole and got rid of them. They haven't been a force. So all of a sudden the Philistines exist? They don't exist. Yasser Arafat is an Arab. And in fact, I don't even think he was born in Gaza. He was born in Egypt. He's dead now, but he was born in Egypt. An Egyptian Arab. So all this talk about Palestine, that they're giving one of the 91 countries, that's a lie. It's a political statement. They do not want to support the poor of Israel, but they will support those people who make it their job or make it their destiny that they want to destroy Israel. So CARE, because it's the United Nations agency, which is dominated by the Arabs, CARE is an agency hell-bent on not supporting Israel and supporting those who want to destroy Israel. So if that's the case, I will tell you the following. As a Jew, Palestine is not a country, never was a country, and should never be a country. I know that this is not PC for some Jewish people, but Palestine never was, isn't, and never should be a country. The area that they live in is traditional Judea and Samaria. They really have no business being there. And if they are there, they should follow the rules of the people who are the real owners of that place, which are the Jewish people. At any rate, Palestine is not a country, and CARE is a political organization, not a charity. And therefore, no Jew should support it as a charity. You want to support it as a political organization, be my guest.